Hi, this video is the first in a series about keyboard harmony. Keyboard harmony is all about adding chords out the keyboard to a melody. In further videos, I'll be covering a whole range of things to do with this, just passing notes, secondary triads, seventh chords, chromatic chords, augmented sixth chords, modulation, and so on. But in this first lesson, I just want to show you how to harmonise a simple tune, in this case, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, using what we call the three primary triads. I made a video before about how to construct a series of diatonic triads in the key of C major, and I've put the link to that below. I'll just briefly recap about that though. You take the scale of C major and on each note construct a triad, a three-note chord. You take the first note, add the note which is three letter names above it, C, D, E, and five letter names above it, G, and you have your first triad, the triad of C major. You do the same thing on each degree or note of the scale, and you have a series of 7 diatonic triads. The three primary triads are the triads formed on the first, fourth, and fifth degree or note of the C major scale, and they are C major, F major, and G major. You notice that I've used Roman numerals to name the chords rather than letter names, and that's so that you think of these chords in relation to the key that you're in. The importance and significance of that will become apparent as you go along. I've chosen this tune because all the chord notes are, all the melody notes rather, are chord notes. That means that they belong to the chord that we're going to harmonise them with. In later videos, I'll be using melodies where there are non-chord notes, such as passing notes. For instance, if I played this little melody, three of the notes of that melody, C, E, and G, are chord notes. They belong to the chord C that I'm harmonising it with. One note, D, is a non-chord note. In this case, it's what we call a passing note. It passes in between two chord notes, C and E. Generally, when a melody is a quarter note or a crotchet or longer, such as a minim or half note, it's going to be a chord note. There's always exceptions to all these rules and guidelines, but for the time being, we can say if a note's a quarter note or longer, try harmonising it with as a chord note. So you'll notice as we go through this tune that some notes are in more than one of the primary triads. For instance, the first note, C, is in both the chord of C major, chord 1, and F major, chord 4. So I've written both options down. The next melody note, G, is in the chord of C major, chord 1, and also G major, chord 5. So I've written the two options down. The next one is in A, is only in chord 4. So there is only that one option. Back to G, which again could be either 1 or 5. So now, where there are two options, I've got to make the choice. Well, to do this, first of all, your ear will always be the best guideline, but there are two general principles to remember. And the first one is that chord 1 can go quite happily to chord 4 or 5. Chord 4 can also go happily to 1 or 5. But chord 5 will generally want to go to chord 1. It won't want to go to chord 4. And also the final tune of the final chord of the tune rather is almost always going to be 1. So bearing these guidelines in mind, I've crossed out all the chord 5s where the next chord is chord 4. And also I've made sure that the last chord is chord 1. So having done that, that just leaves two places where there are two chords as options, And again, let your ear be your guide. The first one is at the beginning of the tune. We could have either chord 1 staying on chord 1 for the second note, or 4 going to 1. Now, I think you'll agree that sounds better than... That doesn't sound wrong, it's just... I think that sounds better. Generally speaking, a tune is more likely to start on chord 1. It sometimes does start on chord 4, so that's not a hard and fast rule. But again, let your ear be your guide. Okay, so the whole thing now is... You notice that in some places the melody note, that's the note that the right hand is playing, is also the top note of the chord. So in that case, just play 2 notes with the left hand and play the melody note with the right hand. So that's it for this video. In the next video, I will be introducing what we call dominant 7th chords. And I'll just hint at what we're going to do with that, because you can actually use the G chord to harmonise the note F in this tune. So at the moment, you're probably thinking, hang on, the F is not in the G chord. It's in this chord which we call G7. And I'm going to explain that and its use fully in the next video. Hope you found that useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe. Thank you.